The alien beauty closed my door, slipped out of everything, and smiled like I belonged to her. Jake Carter never believed in aliens until one walked into his apartment at 2 in the morning. He lived alone in a small studio on the edge of Denver, working night shifts at a warehouse to pay for college classes. He barely attended anymore, and his life had become a loop of work, sleep, and microwave dinners. But tonight something changed. The door opened without a sound, and she stepped inside. She was tall, maybe 6 feet, with skin that shimmered like liquid silver under moonlight, and her eyes were large and violet, with pupils that seemed to shift between round and slitted, depending on how the light hit them, and her hair, if it could be called hair, flowed down her back in waves of deep blue that moved on their own, like water in zero gravity. Jake sat frozen on his couch, holding a half-eaten burrito and staring at the impossible woman who had just entered his locked apartment. She looked at him and smiled, and that smile made his heart stop, because it was not friendly or warm, but hungry and possessive. Like she had found something she had been searching for across galaxies before he could speak or scream or do anything rational. She raised one slender hand, and the door behind her swung shut with a soft click, and the lock turned by itself. Jake finally found his voice, but it came out as a whisper. "Are you real?" Shay tilted her head in a way that was both curious and predatory, and when she spoke, her voice was like music played through water, soft and flowing, but with an underlying current of power that made the air vibrate. "Zara and I have traveled very far to find you, Jake Carter." He dropped his burrito, and it landed on the floor with a wet splat, and he did not even notice, because his mind was trying to process the fact that this alien woman knew his name. "How do you know who I am?" he managed to say. Zara moved closer, and her movements were fluid and graceful, like a dancer or a predator stalking prey, and she stood before him looking down with those impossible violet eyes. "Kind sends signals into space, hoping to find others, and we have been listening and watching and learning, and you, Jake Carter, are special," he repeated dumbly, because nothing about his life felt special, and he worked in a warehouse and ate cheap food and had not been on a date in 2 years. She reached out and touched his cheek with fingers that were cool and smooth, and sent a shiver down his spine. "You carry something inside you that my people need, and I have been sent to retrieve it." Jake pulled back, suddenly afraid. "What do you mean, retrieve it?" And his voice rose in panic. "Are you going to cut me open or something?" Zara laughed, and it sounded like bells chiming in a cathedral. "No, Jake Carter, I am not here to harm you, and I am here to bond with you." "Bond?" he echoed. She stepped back, and her hands moved to the strange garment she wore, which looked like it was made of liquid metal and living fabric, and with a single motion it slid off her body and pooled at her feet. Jake stopped breathing. Her body was humanoid, but perfect in ways that defied description, and her skin shimmered with that same silver glow, and her proportions were just slightly off in ways that made her more beautiful rather than strange. And she had curves that would make any man lose his mind, and there was an otherworldly quality to her that made her both terrifying and irresistible. She stood there completely bare and smiling at him with that possessive, hungry smile. "In my culture, this is how we begin a bond, and we show ourselves fully to our chosen partner, and you are my chosen." Jake Carter, he tried to look away but could not, and tried to speak, but his mouth was too dry, and tried to think clearly, but his brain had short-circuited. "Why me?" he finally croaked out. "Because you are compatible and—" Zara said simply, and she moved closer again, "and because your genetic code matches what we need to save my species, and because I want you." That last part was said with such intensity that Jake felt heat flood through his body weight. Wait, he said, holding up his hands and his voice cracking slightly, "and I do not understand any of this, and you just broke into my apartment and took your clothes off and told me you need me to save your species, and I need more informations." Paused and tilted her head again, studying him, and for a moment he saw something softer in those violet eyes, something almost vulnerable. "My people are dying, Jake Carter, and we have lost the ability to reproduce on our own, and our genetics have become too narrow, too refined, and we need new DNA, new life, and we have searched the stars for compatible species and found only you humans." She sat down beside him on the couch, and he was acutely aware of her bare shoulder touching his arm. Have been coming to Earth in secret for decades now and choosing individuals who match our needs in bonding with them and creating offspring who can save both our species' offspring? Jake squeaked. And you want me to father alien children's era? Nodded yes, but it is more than that. And when we bond, you and I will be connected forever, and I will know your thoughts, and you will know mine, and I will share my strength and my knowledge and my long life with you. He stared at her, and his mind reeling, and this is insane, and this cannot be real, and I must be having a breakdown. She reached out and took his hand, placing it on her chest, just over where a human heart would be, and he felt a strange double pulse beneath his palm and felt warmth and life and something else, something electric that traveled up his arm and made his whole body tingle. Does that feel like a breakdown? She asked softly. No, he admitted, and it feels very real. Then let me show you more, she whispered. Before he could respond, she leaned in and kissed him. It was like nothing he had ever experienced, and her lips were cool, but somehow burning at the same time. In the moment they touched his, he felt a rush of images and emotions flood his mind, and he saw her world, a planet of silver cities and purple skies, and he saw her people tall and beautiful, but fading and dying, and he saw her searching through the stars looking for him, specifically looking for Jake Carter, the nobody from Denver. When she pulled back, he was gasping for air and his eyes wide. What was that? He breathed a glimpse of what we could share, she said, and a taste of the bond. He should have been terrified and should have run screaming, should have called the police or a psychiatrist or someone, but instead he found himself asking, what happens if? Say yes. Era smiled, that possessive smile again, and her eyes glowing brighter. We bond tonight, and you become mine and I become yours, and we create new life together, and I take you to my world and show you wonders beyond imagination, and you live for centuries instead of decades, and you experience pleasure and connection beyond anything your kind has known. And if I say no, her expression darkened, and if you say no, I must move on to another. But I do not want another Jake Carter, and I want you, and I have wanted you since I first saw your pattern in our scans, and please do not make me leave. There was genuine sadness in her voice now, in real longing, and Jake realized that, despite her power and her otherworldly nature, she was vulnerable in this moment, and she was asking, not demanding. Looked at her, really looked at her, and saw not just an alien or a gorgeous woman or a threat, but a person, someone who had traveled impossible distances because she believed he was special. No one had ever wanted him like that before. I'm scared, he admitted quietly. Zara took both his hands in hers. So am I. In bonding with a human is not without risk for me, and if we are not truly compatible, it could hurt us both. But I believe in you, Jake Carter, and I believe we are meant for this. He took a deep breath and let it out slowly, and his heart hammering in his just okay, he said. And okay, let us do this. Her face lit up with joy so pure and bright that it hurt to look at. And are you certain I am probably going to regret this? He said, with a shaky laugh. But yes, and I am certain. Sarah stood and pulled him to his feet and wrapped her arms around him and kissed him again, and this time images were stronger, and he saw their future together, saw children with his eyes and her silver skin, saw himself standing on alien soil under foreign stars, saw a life so much bigger than his tiny apartment and dead-end job. She guided him toward his bed and the small mattress on the floor that he had not bothered to put on a frame, and she laid him down gently and positioned herself over him, and her blue hair cascading around them like a waterfall. This will change everything, she whispered, and you will never be the same. Good, he said, and because I was tired of being the same. She smiled and pressed her forehead to his, and he felt a warmth spreading from where their skin touched, and felt his body responding to hers in ways both familiar and completely alien. The bonding began, and it was not just physical, though that was part of it, and it was deeper than that, and more profound, and he felt his mind opening to hers and felt her presence flooding into every corner of his consciousness, and memories mixing and emotions blending until he could not tell where he ended. And she began. He saw her childhood on her dying world, saw the desperation of her people, saw the moment she volunteered to be a seeker to search for compatible mates, across the stars, and he saw how lonely she had been traveling from planet to planet, finding nothing until she found Earth, until she found him. She saw his life too, saw his lonely apartment and his dead end job, and his quiet desperation, and his secret hopes for something more, and his kindness that he hid behind cynicism, and his strength that he did not even know he had. They moved together, and the physical act was both familiar and strange, and her body responded to his in ways that seemed designed for perfect.